Have the last 72 hours revealed a turning point for Iraq? That question is becoming harder to ignore as a series of major developments unfold across governance, security, diplomacy, and economic policy. While headlines often focus on speculation surrounding the Iraqi dinar, the real story may be happening behind the scenes through institutional reforms that could reshape Iraq's future for years to come. Today, we're going to break down the latest developments, examine what they mean, and explore why many observers are paying close attention to the speed and scale of changes taking place right now. Welcome back to Dinar Intel Hub. Over the past 2 days, Iraq has witnessed a remarkable series of events that collectively point toward one theme: reform acceleration. Rather than focusing on rumors or predictions, we're looking at measurable actions, policy decisions, and structural changes that can be verified and analyzed. One of the most significant stories involves a major anti-corruption initiative that has sent shockwaves through Iraq's political and economic landscape. Reports indicate that a corruption case involving an alleged $200 million bribe connected to the oil sector has triggered high-level investigations and the arrest of a senior oil official. Now, why is this important? Because corruption has long been viewed as one of the largest obstacles to Iraq's economic development. For years, investors, international organizations, and economic observers have repeatedly pointed to governance concerns as a major barrier to attracting capital, improving public services, and maximizing the country's vast resource wealth. When allegations of corruption are investigated aggressively and accountability mechanisms are enforced, it sends a message both domestically and internationally that the rules may be changing. But the anti-corruption effort doesn't stop there. Authorities have established a new Supreme Sovereign Council for Integrity. The purpose of this body is reportedly focused on recovering public funds, overseeing contracts, and strengthening accountability throughout government institutions. This matters because anti-corruption campaigns are often judged not by individual arrests, but by whether institutions are created that can sustain oversight over time. Strong institutions create consistency. Consistency creates confidence. And confidence is one of the most valuable assets any developing economy can possess. Another noteworthy development is the reported review of foreign contracts operating inside Iraq. On the surface, that might sound like a routine administrative process. However, contract reviews can have significant implications. Governments seeking to improve transparency often revisit existing agreements to ensure compliance, efficiency, and proper use of public resources. For international investors, transparency in contract management can be just as important as the contracts themselves. And this is where things become particularly interesting. These various anti-corruption initiatives appear to be part of a broader effort to tighten oversight, reduce financial leakage, and protect state resources. If successful, such measures could strengthen government finances while improving public trust in institutions. But governance reform is only one side of the equation, because economic growth also depends heavily on security. And that's where another major development enters the picture. Reports indicate that Iraq is intensifying efforts to bring all weapons under state authority. A joint committee has reportedly been formed to implement disarmament measures and strengthen government control over security structures. Groups that refuse to comply with state directives could potentially face legal consequences and lose official recognition. This issue carries enormous significance. One of the defining characteristics of stable nations is that security responsibilities are managed through recognized state institutions. When governments establish clear authority over security matters, it often creates a more predictable environment for businesses, investors, and citizens alike. And predictability is a cornerstone of economic development. Now here's an important question. Why are these security reforms attracting so much attention right now? Because reports suggest that approximately 35,000 faction fighters may eventually be integrated into official state security forces. Discussions surrounding integration have existed for years. What makes recent developments stand out is the apparent acceleration of implementation efforts. If these initiatives continue moving forward, they could contribute to stronger institutional control, improved national cohesion, and enhanced stability. and stability is often one of the first things international investors evaluate before committing capital to long-term projects. But the story becomes even broader when we look beyond Iraq's internal reforms. Because Iraq is also increasing engagement with international partners. Recent discussions involving American companies and future service and investment projects suggest growing interest in expanding economic cooperation. This is significant because reconstruction and infrastructure development require more than government funding alone. Large-scale development typically depends on partnerships, expertise, technology transfer, and private sector participation. As countries emerge from periods of instability, attracting foreign investment often becomes a central objective. Why? Because investment creates jobs. Jobs stimulate consumption. Consumption supports growth. And growth strengthens economic resilience. What we're seeing may reflect a broader strategy aimed at positioning Iraq as a more attractive destination for international business activity. That doesn't happen overnight. It requires years of work. But reforms in governance and security can help create the foundation needed for future investment expansion. And speaking of future development, there is another report generating discussion. A proposal has surfaced regarding the potential allocation of residential land to Iraqi families. Now, it's important to note that additional verification is still needed before drawing firm conclusions. However, if such plans move forward, they could reflect increasing attention toward domestic development priorities. Housing initiatives often serve multiple purposes. They can address social needs, stimulate construction activity, create employment opportunities, and support broader economic development objectives. Whether this proposal advances or not, its appearance within current discussions highlights growing focus on long-term national development. But perhaps the most internationally significant development occurred on the diplomatic stage. Iraq has been elected vice president of the 81st session of the United Nations General Assembly. This development deserves careful attention. International organizations rarely operate in a vacuum. Appointments and leadership roles often reflect confidence, trust, and recognition among member states. For Iraq, this position represents more than a ceremonial title. It signals growing acceptance within the international community and recognition of Iraq's evolving role on the global stage. The country has indicated its intention to use this position to contribute to international development goals while strengthening its diplomatic influence. Why does this matter economically? Because diplomacy and economics are deeply interconnected. Countries that maintain strong international relationships often enjoy greater opportunities for trade, investment, development partnerships, and institutional cooperation. In many ways, diplomatic credibility functions as a form of economic capital. And Iraq's election to this position may be viewed as another step in its ongoing reintegration into international political and economic systems. When we step back and examine all these developments together, a larger picture begins to emerge. Anti-corruption initiatives, security sector reforms, investment discussions, infrastructure priorities, international recognition. These are not isolated events. They are interconnected components of broader state-building efforts. No single reform transforms a country overnight. But when multiple reforms advance simultaneously, they can create momentum. And momentum matters, because sustained progress often depends on maintaining forward movement across several areas at once. This brings us to an important point regarding the Iraqi dinar and broader economic expectations. Speculation frequently dominates online conversations. Yet the most meaningful developments are often the least dramatic. Institutional reforms, governance improvements, transparency measures, security consolidation, international engagement. These are the building blocks that support long-term economic transformation. Whether discussing investment, economic growth, or future monetary developments, lasting progress is generally built upon fundamentals rather than headlines. And right now, the fundamental story appears to be one of gradual modernization and institutional strengthening. The pace of change over recent days has certainly attracted attention. However, what matters most is whether implementation continues and whether these initiatives produce measurable results over time. If current trends continue, Iraq could further strengthen investor confidence, improve governance standards, deepen international partnerships, and expand its role within the global economy. Those outcomes would have implications extending far beyond any single news cycle. For now, the key takeaway is straightforward. The focus should remain on verifiable reforms, documented progress, and observable developments rather than speculation. Because those are the indicators that ultimately shape economic outcomes. And based on recent events, Iraq appears to be moving through a period of significant transition that deserves close observation. Thank you for watching Dinar Intel Hub. If you found this analysis valuable, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future updates. We cover Iraqi dinar developments, geopolitical events, economic reforms, international relations, and market analysis designed to help you stay informed. We'd also love to hear your perspective, so share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, this content is provided for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Until next time, thanks for watching Dinar Intel Hub.